Hi, I'm Claire, and I know how to read. Welcome to my bi-monthly book wrap. All the books that I finished in January and February of 2025 separated into fiction and nonfiction. There are 12 of them, so let's get going. I'm on a mission this year, and that mission is to read as many vampire books as possible. So I thought I'd start this year off with the most obvious choice, the first vampire book ever written, and that is Carmilla by Sheridan Fanu. This is a sapphic, gothic tale about a beautiful, alluring vampire named Carmilla and her human victim, Laura. Yes, you heard me right. I said sapphic. The first vampire book was about lesbians. Specifically, it's homophobic propaganda about the dangers of lesbianism, but I'll take what I can get. It's rough out here for us. I absolutely adored the gothic atmosphere in this, but overall, I didn't like this book as much as I hoped I would. It's very short, so you don't really get to spend much time with the characters. I feel I didn't really connect with them. And it's surprisingly repetitive for how short it is. There's a version that's annotated by Carmen Maria Machado that I do really want to read. I feel like most of my enjoyment of this book came from simply knowing its impact, so I think an annotated version would be better for me. 3.25 stars, still very enjoyable. The next book I read was If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio, and this book is very popular on TikTok, specifically the dark academia side of book talk. I was told If We Were Villains is like The Secret History, but with Shakespeare instead of ancient Greek, and yeah, that's accurate in a way. The plots and premises are very similar, but I did not enjoy If We Were Villains near as much as I enjoyed The Secret History. The writing just doesn't really hold a candle to The Secret History, in my opinion. I would not recommend anyone read this anytime soon after reading The Secret History. You will ruin it for yourself. That being said, I found it to be fairly enjoyable throughout. I like the Shakespeare stuff. I'm an actor, so I got the references. The plots of a few Shakespeare plays are interwoven through the plot of the book in a way that I thought was pretty well done. It's clear that M.L. Rio knows what she's doing. It was pretty much everything else about the book I did not like. There was like a gay storyline in this, which I appreciated the effort, but there were a couple moments that made me go like, oh my god, it's so cute, because like they're sharing a bed and they're both boys, but I did not care about any of the characters even a little bit. They were all one-dimensional, and I didn't care for the ending, like any part of it. 2.75 stars. Next, we have the first 5-star book of 2025, Everyone in This Room Will Someday Be Dead by Emily Austen. I loved this book. This is about a severely mentally ill lesbian named Gilda who ends up becoming a secretary at a Catholic church. She just gets herself into the wackiest scenarios, and it's just so funny. This book is hilarious. All the characters were so lovable, and I really related to Gilda's inner monologue, but not too much. Nobody has to worry about me. It was more like everything she said, I was like, I understand how you came to that conclusion. Like, I see how you got there. I read the last 40-ish pages of this in the library so that I could return it and get a new book. And you know when you're holding back tears and it kind of hurts? That was me in the library reading this last section of the book. Then I remembered that I don't care if people see me cry, so I did. I let it loose. 5 stars, obviously. Next is The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches by Sangu Mandanna. This book was fine. It was cute. It was cozy. Everything the book advertised is just, I don't know. Something that I'm learning about myself is that if there's not something a little bit fucked up about a book, I'm probably not gonna like it, which is frustrating because one of my reading missions this year is to find a romance book that I really like. I've always been a hopeless romantic. I love love, I love romance movies, so obviously I should get into romance books. I'm clearly gonna love them based on my interests, but so far that effort has proved unfruitful. Is that a word? I don't want to say fruitless because that sounds so dramatic. I've yielded at least a little bit of fruit. I DNF'd a book in January called Those Who Wait by Haley Cass. Everyone on the Lesbian Book Club subreddit loves Haley Cass, but I could just not get into it. So I thought that maybe the magical element of this would hold my interest a little bit more, but no, I still didn't really care all that much. There was a sex scene in this book, which I was not expecting. Not to judge a book by its cover, but I judged this book by its cover. Based on the cover and also everything else about this book leading up to the moment, I did not expect the phrase "he was inside her" to make an appearance, but what do you know? There it was. It was jarring, but I didn't entirely mind it. I mean, if anything, it was one of the more interesting things that happened in the book. I did end up giving this book 3 stars because it made me cry in the end. What can I say? It was sweet. You got me. After that, I decided that I'd had enough of straight people for the month, so I read another lesbian book. This one is called Our Wives Under the Sea by Julia Armfield. This is a sci-fi horror book about married couple Miri and Leah. Leah is a marine biologist, and she ends up getting stuck in a submarine at the bottom of the ocean for 6 months. She eventually resurfaces, and the book is told in this dual point of view. Miri is coming to terms with the fact that Leah is not the same person that she was when she left, and Leah is recounting her experiences down under. This book was deeply romantic, but it was more about romance in conversation with grief. And apparently I love that, because this story had me in a chokehold. I love being sad. I loved the Leah chapters. I don't get easily scared, but I am really afraid of the ocean. Have been as long as I can remember. And those chapters definitely gave me that haunting sort of feeling, so that was really cool. Beautifully written, excellent prose. I really loved this book. I ended up giving it 4.5 stars because it didn't really have that oomph that a 5-star book has for me, but I still really loved it and I highly recommend it. Next is These Silent Woods by Kimi Cunningham Grant. This is a thriller drama about a father who lives in isolation in the middle of the woods with his 8-year-old daughter. Every year they have someone come and bring them supplies for the year, but one year this person does not show up. And that sets off a chain of events, and you end up learning why they have to live in isolation. This book is deeply emotional. It made me cry quite a few times, I have to say. I liked the writing style, and the father-daughter relationship was really very touching, but overall this book didn't really stick with me all that much. I felt the story was a little bit lacking. I think I liked it better in theory than in practice. I gave it 3.25 stars. Continuing on the vampire train, I read the big kahuna of vampire books, and that is Dracula by Bram Stoker. Looking back, I don't know exactly what I expected from this, but I enjoyed this so much more than I thought I would. I think going into it, I thought it would be at least 50% less gay than Carmilla, and therefore not as interesting, but it was only like 20% less gay than Carmilla at most. There were a lot of homoerotic undertones in there, you know, Dracula and Jonathan, Mina and Lucy, something was definitely going on there. I loved the writing style in this. I really felt transported into this world, and the prose was so fun and bouncy. I don't really know how else to describe it. I read most of this book out loud to myself, and I think that's the best way to do it, honestly. I found a playlist on Spotify called Reading Dracula by Bram Stoker, and it has some of The Cure on it, which is fitting. But I had never heard the song Lullaby before listening to this playlist, and that's been on repeat for like a month now, so thank you to that person. I loved the characters, and I love the characters' relationships with each other. You thought you were getting a story about vampires? This book is actually about the power of friendship. They all loved each other so much, and they were so supportive of each other, and they all had compatible blood types, which was very convenient. I don't want to give too much away, but at one point in time, a character loses a lot of blood. 3 guesses as to how that happens. But the other characters are like, we need to perform a blood transfusion. And this happens multiple times. And it works every single time. This book came out a good 4 years before blood typing was a thing. I love reading outdated books and pointing out why they're outdated. It makes me feel smart and important. The first 4 chapters are just brilliant. It does kind of lose me a little bit towards the end, but overall, I thoroughly enjoyed my time with this, and I will be rereading it. I've already subscribed to the Daily Dracula emails, so come May, I will be getting those emails with the journal entries on the day, and I'm so excited. 4.25 stars. The last of the fiction books that I read these past 2 months was The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho, a self-help book for people who don't like self-help books. Is really the best way I can think to describe this. It's so short, you could easily devour this in a day. I read it over the course of like 3 days because I had things to do. I had a lot of fun with this one. It's a short, cute little fable about following your dreams. The story is pretty simple. It's about a shepherd who goes on a quest to fulfill his personal legend and learn the language of the world. Very inspiring, very cute. I love how universal it is. They make references to the Holy Bible and the Quran in this, but I really don't think you need to be religious to get something out of this. You just need to be willing to get something out of it. I'm pretty much the perfect audience for this book, I think. I'm young. I just graduated college not that long ago, and I'm at a point in my life where I'm very much in search of my own personal legend. And it did inspire me. This is the kind of book that made me want to put it down and go do something. Go make some art. Go take a walk outside, even though it's in the negatives here. And I love a classic hero's journey. As a kid, one of my favorite pastimes was watching my brother play Skyrim. And reading this book kind of reminded me of that. 4.5 stars. Moving on to the nonfiction books that I read so far this year. Starting off with Women Don't Owe You Pretty by Florence Given. This is like a self-help book with a strong feminist perspective, I'd say. It was fine. I learned when I was done with it that the author was 21 when she wrote it, so that honestly explains a lot as to why I personally didn't get much out of it. It had cool illustrations. I really did like her art style. It's good for what it is. I think that a bit of a younger demographic, like teenagers, would get more out of this. I gave it 3 stars. Next, we have Eastern Body, Western Mind, Psychology and the Chakra System as a Path to Self by Anita Judith. This book I have been reading for a very long time, and I finally finished it in the month of January, and oh my god, I love this book. I love this book! This book explains the chakra system, Eastern spiritual and philosophical ideas through the lens of a Western psychological perspective. So it draws on Carl Jung, Freud, childhood development theory, somatic therapy, etc. This book is so well researched and so thorough. I don't think there will be a time when I'm not rereading this. This is the kind of book where I always just want to pick it up and read a little section of it. I'm a very spiritual person, and at the time I picked this up, I was very interested in learning more about the chakra system for myself, but also for how it can possibly better inform my acting. I also love learning about psychology and how the brain works, so this book feels like it was tailor-made for me. It really helped me understand the chakra system on a deeper level, and I absolutely loved it. 5 stars. Next we have Men Explain Things to Me by Rebecca Solnit. It's a collection of essays. I think at this point, this book has cemented itself as like a foundational text of modern feminism, and I'm here to tell you that it deserves all of its accolades. I was very impressed with the way that Rebecca Solnit was able to balance all the different subjects that she talked about and the feelings that they evoked. There would be a section where you're just being bombarded with statistics, and it's very upsetting, but as soon as I found myself getting to that point where I was like, oh my god, the world is fucked, she was able to reel it back in and leave you with something hopeful. A quote that I keep finding myself coming back to, and I think she might have been quoting someone else when she said this, but it's, "The future is dark, and that's the best way for it to be." I'm probably paraphrasing, but really it's just saying that there is always hope in the unseen. Yes, everything could fall to shit, but it hasn't quite yet, and we made a lot of progress to get where we are today, so it's important to remember that and to keep trying to move forward. Never at any point in time does she speak about men with any vitriol or anything like that. She even goes out of her way multiple times to say that she knows a lot of great men who aren't like the examples that she's describing. And I think this is just one of the reasons. This is the perfect entry-level feminist text for everyone. 5 stars. The last book that I read this month was The Creative Act by Rick Rubin. A series of thoughts on creativity and what it means to live as an artist. In the intro, he says, "Some ideas may resonate, others may not. A few may awaken an inner knowing you forgot you had. Use what's helpful, let go of the rest." I feel like awakening an inner knowing is the perfect way to describe my experience with this book. He doesn't say anything that's new or groundbreaking necessarily, but he was able to put into words something that I never could, which is very helpful, especially if you're experiencing a creative block. This book has a lot of great advice. Again, it was very spiritual, so that resonated with me. This is a great coffee table book, something that you can just flip to a random page and see what it has to say. I bought this at Barnes & Noble when they were having their post-holiday half-off hardcover sale, and I was debating whether or not to get it, so I just flipped to a random page, and I kid you not, it said, "A helpful exercise might be opening a book to a random page and reading the first line your eyes find." Are you kidding me? I finished this and The Alchemist at around the same time, and I'm so glad I did because I feel like these two were the perfect ways to round off the month. There wasn't a page of this that I didn't enjoy. 5 stars. Those are all the books that I finished in the last 2 months. Yay! I feel like we got a good variety going, and we have some good ones on the roster for the next couple months, including Interview with the Vampire. I'm probably gonna start that one next. Maybe I'll find a romance book that works for me, who knows? But until then, get out of my house.